Jerry and Mr. Gentry stepped into the bustling courthouse, the weight of the impending proceedings palpable in the air. As they made their way down the hallway, they spotted Roger, who greeted them with a nod of acknowledgement. "Roger, this is Rita's father, Mr. Gentry," Jerry introduced. "Glad to meet you, Mr. Gentry," Roger replied warmly, leading the way with an air of purpose. "The proceedings are about to begin. Follow me." They entered the courtroom, finding their seats as the atmosphere brimmed with anticipation. The judge's arrival marked the commencement of the proceedings, coinciding with Rita's entrance, flanked by female officers. Her eyes lit up at the sight of her father and Jerry, a mix of relief and excitement washing over her. "I'm so glad you're here, Dad," Rita exclaimed, reaching out for an embrace that couldn't quite happen in the current setting. Mr. Gentry reciprocated her sentiment with a reassuring smile. "Me too. Everything's going to be okay." Roger motioned for Rita, Jerry, and Mr. Gentry to join him, indicating the need for a private conversation amidst the courtroom's buzz. Judge Caldwell cleared his throat, setting the tone for what was to come. "Good evening, everyone," Judge Caldwell began, his voice carrying the weight of authority. "This is going to be a rather informal bond hearing. Word reached me that a serious miscarriage of justice had occurred in my jurisdiction. Whether that be the case or not has yet to be determined, but at this time, our concern is getting you home, Mrs. Franklin." Mr. Stone, representing the district attorney's office, rose to address the court. "Yes, I do, Your Honor," Mr. Stone interjected, his tone firm. "Mrs. Franklin has a laundry list of charges against her. Said list is on the bench for your review. I would request of the court that no bond be given at this time. The state further requests of the court that, should you insist on setting bond, that it should be in the category suiting the severity of the charges put forth before." Judge Caldwell interrupted him, a hint of impatience in his voice. "Mr. Stone, let me be frank. I'm tired. I want to go home. I'm sure Mrs. Franklin is tired as well. Just give me a figure, would you?" The tension in the courtroom was palpable as Mr. Stone, visibly affronted but composed, swiftly provided the requested figure. $2,500,000, Your Honor, he announced, his voice carrying a hint of indignation. Roger, sensing the gravity of the moment, rose to his feet with a sense of urgency. "Objection, Your Honor," he interjected, his tone firm and resolute. "That is outrageous. Mrs. Franklin has no criminal record of any kind. The charges before you are ludicrous and artificially trumped up." Judge Caldwell's stern gaze fell on Mr. Stone, his displeasure evident. "I didn't come all the way back from my few precious vacation days just so this woman can stay in jail, Mr. Stone," he retorted, his voice carrying a touch of impatience. "Mrs. Franklin, I hereby set your bond at $250. And if for some reason your family can't afford that, I'll gladly pay it myself." Rita and Jerry exchanged relieved smiles, a glimmer of hope returning to their eyes. Roger, ever the advocate, stood up once more. "We have the bond, Your Honor," he affirmed confidently, a sense of victory in his voice. "Wonderful. You are dismissed. Good night," Judge Caldwell announced, his decision final as he rose from his seat and exited the courtroom, leaving behind a sense of resolution. As the judge departed, Mr. Stone, seething with frustration, made his way towards the exit, shooting a glare at Roger. "See you in court," he muttered under his breath, his words dripping with disdain and determination. Roger responded with a knowing chuckle, unperturbed by the looming threat. With Rita, Jerry, and Mr. Gentry by his side, he led them out of the courthouse, the weight of the evening's events slowly lifting off their shoulders. The cool night air greeted them outside, carrying with it a sense of newfound freedom and relief. The morning sunlight streamed through the windows, casting a warm glow over the kitchen as Mrs. Gentry bustled about, clearing the remnants of breakfast from the table. Rita, her eyes heavy with fatigue, entered the room, greeted by her mother's welcoming smile. "Oh, honey, how are you feeling?" Mrs. Gentry asked with concern, setting down a few plates. Rita sighed wearily but managed a faint smile. "I'm exhausted," she admitted, accepting her mother's comforting embrace. "I imagine so, baby," Mrs. Gentry sympathized. "How about a cup of coffee?" "That sounds great," Rita agreed with a nod. "Where are my kids?" "Don't worry about them. They're playing with the neighbor's children," Mrs. Gentry reassured her daughter. "What about Jerry or Dad?" Rita inquired further. They left this morning to go talk to Roger. They'll be back any time, Mrs. Gentry informed her, bustling over to pour a cup of steaming coffee for Rita. Thanks for coming, Mom. Rita expressed her gratitude as she took a grateful sip of the hot beverage. I'm glad to be here, sweetheart, Mrs. Gentry replied warmly, her eyes reflecting her maternal concern. Everything will be okay. Just you be strong. Rita nodded, finding solace in her mother's words as she slowly savored her breakfast. The peaceful moment was interrupted by the sound of a car pulling up outside. In walked Jerry, Roger, and Mr. Gentry, their expressions a mix of relief and determination as they entered the kitchen. Jerry wasted no time in enveloping Rita in a tight hug. Honey, how are you feeling? He inquired, his voice filled with genuine concern. Much better. So happy to be home, Rita responded, a genuine smile spreading across her face as she embraced her father next, feeling the love and support of her family surrounding her. Meanwhile, Roger settled himself at the kitchen table. In the midst of their kitchen gathering, Jerry and Roger exchanged meaningful glances, hinting at something significant about to be revealed. Honey, Roger has some very important news for us, don't you, Roger? Jerry prompted, his tone tinged with anticipation. Roger, with a solemn nod, addressed Rita directly. Mrs. Franklin, long story short, your case is making history. I've received calls and emails constantly from every news station and talk show in the nation. You won't believe the attention your case has been getting. Rita's eyes widened in surprise and curiosity as she listened intently to Roger's words. Every outlet there is wants an interview with you, Roger added, emphasizing the magnitude of the situation. With me? Rita echoed incredulously, a mix of disbelief and intrigue coloring her tone. Yes, with you, Roger affirmed. It may be hard to believe, but you're kind of a celebrity now, Rita. And as your attorney and friend, I've thought long and hard about how to handle matters related to the media. Just hear me out, okay? Rita exchanged a glance with Jerry, who nodded in support of Roger's proposal. We're going to arrange your case to be tried and analyzed by the media before it ever goes to trial, Roger explained further, outlining his strategy. We want you to have your voice out there. We need interviews out there. By the time all is said and done, you'll have every woman in America on your side. Trust me. Rita absorbed Roger's words, contemplating the implications of such a public approach to her case. After a moment's thought, she made her decision. All right, let's get started. The next morning, the front pages of newspapers across the country bore headlines that captured the essence of Rita's story. Woman arrested after ball game on false charges. Heroic impromptu mother coach arrested in major scandal. Men don't understand. PMS-induced insanity causes mayhem at the ball field. The buzz surrounding Rita's case reverberated throughout the nation, sparking discussions, debates, and widespread support for her cause. Her case echoed loudly across the media landscape, resonating with women everywhere who empathized with her plight. Rita sat across from the hostess in an interview-style arrangement, felt a mix of nerves and determination as the cameras began to roll, capturing every moment of this pivotal conversation. The hostess, with an empathetic smile, addressed the audience. Never in history have so many women banded together to protest the insane miscarriage of justice in the case of Mrs. Rita Franklin. The crowd erupted in applause, showing their solidarity with Rita's cause. Turning her attention to Rita, the hostess invited, "Rita, please tell us your story." Rita, feeling a bit flustered yet resolute, began, "Well, I admit it was partially because of my monthly cycle. I have been a little more upset than usual. Little things tended to bother me more, and..." The hostess, displaying an understanding demeanor, interjected, "And we all know how that feels, don't we?" Her words resonated with the audience, eliciting a chorus of agreement and support. The atmosphere in the studio was charged with empathy and empowerment as Rita shared her experiences, her voice amplified by the collective voices of women who had faced similar challenges. It was a moment of unity and validation, showcasing the strength of solidarity in the face of adversity. Judge Caldwell arrived at his imposing mansion, nestled in an upper-class neighborhood, the grandeur of the residence evident from the moment one set foot on the manicured grounds. As he stepped inside, the opulence of the house enveloped him, a stark contrast to the events unfolding on the television screen in the family room. In the family room, Mrs. Caldwell was engrossed in watching a talk show, where Rita was fervently sharing her ordeal. Rita's voice resonated from the television, filled with emotion. Those officers had no right to arrest me and treat me like a common criminal. No, worse. They put me in a straitjacket and gave me shots of who knows what. It could have been narcotics for all I know. The hostess, mirroring the shock of the audience, responded, "Rita, that is absolutely horrifying. Can any of you believe this? We've got to do something about this. We have to stop this brutal and inhumane treatment. It's time to have a serious discussion about men's ignorance when it comes to PMS symptoms." The impassioned plea struck a chord with Mrs. Caldwell, who nodded in agreement as she watched the screen unfold. The hostess continued, addressing the viewers at home. To those of you listening, imagine this could be you next time you're at the store and need to see the manager. Or if you have a coffee shop worker disrespect you. We've got to band together and stop this. Mrs. Franklin deserves to be acquitted, and I believe those arresting officers should be prosecuted instead. Mrs. Franklin, I believe you should have a serious counterclaim in the works. Rita, visibly touched by the support, nodded gratefully. "Thank you." The hostess concluded, "No, thank you," as the entire audience erupted into applause. Mrs. Caldwell joined in, her gestures mirroring her agreement with the sentiments expressed on the screen. The courtroom was a spectacle of emotions, with Rita anxiously sitting beside Jerry and Roger, with her parents offering silent support from behind. The space was filled with a sea of women, a testament to the widespread solidarity behind Rita's cause. Reporters and media members, hungry for every detail, lined the room, capturing the intensity of the moment. Roger, standing tall and composed, addressed the judge, his voice resonating through the tense atmosphere. "Your Honor, we've heard testimony after testimony for the last 3 days in support of Mrs. Franklin. Public opinion is in agreement with me. I ask that all charges against Mrs. Franklin be dropped." The courtroom erupted in murmurs of agreement, the energy of the crowd echoing Roger's sentiment. The judge had to intervene, calling for order amidst the growing fervor. Judge Caldwell paused, weighing the gravity of the situation before delivering his verdict. "Due to the overwhelming amount of public outcry in Mrs. Franklin's defense, my decision in this case will have serious consequences, setting a precedent for all future cases involving premenstrual syndrome defenses." Rita's heart raced as she awaited the judge's words, her hands clasped tightly with Jerry's. The judge continued, his words carrying the weight of legal precedent. "All that being said, however, my decision in this case is as follows. The defendant, Mrs. Rita Franklin, was indeed suffering from PMS at the time of the alleged crimes were committed. Although minor damages were caused, the court finds no criminal intent in her actions." Rita's eyes widened with hope as the judge's verdict unfolded. She glanced at Jerry, a mixture of relief and gratitude washing over her. "Therefore, Rita Franklin, you are ordered to be put on probation for 6 months from today's date and to pay restitution for the damaged windows and glasses mentioned in this case, totaling $3,695. It is ordered that you are to see your doctor on a regular basis for routine hormone deficiency replacement as necessary. That is all. I rest my decision." "This court is adjourned," the judge concluded, tapping his gavel decisively. A wave of celebration swept through the courtroom, cheers filling the air. Rita couldn't contain her emotions, wrapping her arms around Jerry in a tight embrace. Mrs. Caldwell, her expression softened, nodded approvingly at the judge's decision, a sense of justice prevailing amidst the legal chaos. Rita and Jerry stood at the doorstep, bidding farewell to Rita's parents as they prepared to leave. "Thank you for coming. We would love for you to stay longer if you could," Jerry expressed his gratitude. Mr. Gentry smiled warmly, his eyes reflecting understanding. "Of course, you've got your own family to pull together and get stable again. Don't worry about us. We'll probably be back sometime eventually. Besides, we should be visiting Jonathan at college soon. Haven't heard from him in a while." Mrs. Gentry chimed in with a motherly assurance. "I'm sure he's just having his own adventures." Chuckling, Mr. Gentry added, "Well, we ought to be going." As Rita embraced her parents, Jerry nodded in acknowledgement, appreciating their presence during such trying times. Once they departed, Rita made her way back into the house, only to encounter Mary lingering in the hallway. "Mother Franklin, what are you doing here? I thought you were gone," Rita questioned, surprised by Mary's unexpected return. Mary's expression turned slightly haughty. "I would ask the same of you, but I saw it on the news. Congratulations on getting off easy." Undeterred by Mary's brusque demeanor, Rita followed her through the house as Mary continued to ramble about her recent endeavors and her self-perceived sophistication. "I know you're uncultured, but what do you think of my new hairstyle? It's too long, isn't it?" "I thought so." "Of course, every style looks good when you have such a fine complexion as mine," Mary remarked, seemingly oblivious to Rita's growing irritation. Rita's response was curt. "Whatever you say, Mother Franklin. What brings you back again?" In the kitchen, Rita busied herself with making tea while Mary settled at the table, fussing over her appearance with a small kit from her purse. "Rita, you know you could use a little more blush. Your wrinkles are showing," Mary commented, her tone bordering on condescension. Rita shot her a pointed look, her patience wearing thin. She questioned Mary's sudden return and her intentions, her voice tinged with annoyance. "If you must know, I just came back from lunch with some distinguished ladies and you wouldn't believe how much they supported you. And when I told them I was your mother-in-law, they were very impressed with me indeed. In fact, I invited them over to your house," Mary announced, her tone smug and self-assured. Rita nearly choked on her tea, stunned by Mary's audacity. "What?" she exclaimed, her frustration evident. Mary smirked arrogantly. "They'll be here in an hour via bus. I knew you won't mind." Rita's eyes flashed with anger. "But you didn't even ask me." Mary brushed off Rita's concerns dismissively. "Oh, don't be so unsociable, young lady. Now clean up the house. It's far too messy. I don't want you embarrassing me." With a steely gaze, Rita watched Mary ascend the stairs, her fury simmering beneath the surface. Rita's irritation simmered as she rushed around the house, tidying up the mess left by her unexpected guests. Meanwhile, Mary luxuriated in a long, leisurely shower, her voice echoing through the bathroom. "Rita, Rita, come here," Mary's voice called out from behind the shower curtain. Rita, already on edge, responded sharply, "Yes, Mother Franklin. There's not enough shampoo here. Bring me some, would you?" Mary's voice carried a tone of entitlement. Rita, puzzled by the request, questioned, "Are you sure? I left a whole bottle up there." Mary's reply was firm. "There's no such thing as too much shampoo, young lady. Now bring me some more." Frustration mounting, Rita grumbled, "Fine." As Rita ascended the stairs, a mischievous idea took root in her mind. She reached the bedroom and opened the bathroom cabinet, finding a nearly empty shampoo bottle. With a sly grin, she replaced the shampoo with hair-removing gel, anticipating Mary's reaction. Returning to the bathroom, Rita handed Mary the altered bottle. "Here's some more for you," Rita said, trying to suppress her grin. Mary, none the wiser, took the bottle. "About time!" she exclaimed. "You're more than welcome," Rita replied with a smirk before heading downstairs. A short while later, Rita heard Mary's voice from the bathroom. "What is this? This shampoo isn't lathering at all." Rita couldn't help but smile, knowing her plan had worked. "It's a new shampoo they just made. Just leave it on for a few minutes and then rinse it off. You'll be surprised how well it'll clean your scalp." Chuckling to herself, Rita headed downstairs. Rita descended the stairs with a beaming smile, her kids bustling in through the front door with their school books in tow. "Hey kids," Rita greeted them cheerfully. Trace, her son, looked up curiously. "Hi, Mom. I saw Grandma's car. She's back already?" Rita chuckled, a knowing glint in her eyes. "Oh, she's taking a shower right now. I have a feeling we'll be hearing from her soon." The kids exchanged puzzled glances, their curiosity piqued. Suddenly, a loud shriek pierced through the air from the upstairs bathroom. The kids turned to Rita, their concern evident. "Is Grandma okay?" Courtney, her daughter, asked with a furrowed brow. Rita's grin widened even more. "Oh, she's fine. Now come to the kitchen and let's have some cake." Guiding her children into the kitchen, Rita prepared for the impending chaos. Meanwhile, upstairs, Mary was in the midst of an unexpected crisis. The sound of her furious footsteps echoed down the staircase as she charged downstairs, her head wrapped in a towel. "Rita!" Mary's voice rang out, filled with hysterical outrage. Rita emerged from the kitchen, trying to suppress her laughter at the spectacle unfolding before her. My, what's all the commotion, Mother Franklin?" Mary continued her frantic tirade, completely oblivious to Rita's amusement. "Look at my hair. Your shampoo has ruined my beautiful hair." Her towel precariously perched on her head, Mary's distress was palpable. Rita struggled to maintain a straight face as Mary lamented her impending social demise. "I can't let my friends see me like this," Mary exclaimed, her panic escalating. "I'll be the laughingstock of the town," Rita couldn't help but tease. "But don't you want to see the kids first? They just got home." Mary, consumed by her hair-related catastrophe, was horrified at the thought. No, they can't see me like this." With a mischievous smile, Rita retreated back into the kitchen, leaving Mary to grapple with her shampoo-induced drama. Jerry arrived home, pulling into the driveway. What caught him off guard was his mother's car parked beside his own. As he stepped out of his car, his attention was drawn to the front door where a frenzy seemed to be unfolding. Mary rushed downstairs, still draped in a towel with a chaotic flurry of suitcases in her arms. She burst through the front door in a whirlwind, and Rita swiftly locked the door behind her, a mischievous glint in her eyes as she strolled back to the kitchen. Jerry's brow furrowed in concern as he watched his mother's panicked rush. "Mother, what are you doing here? And what's with the towel?" Jerry called out, his voice tinged with surprise and worry. Mary, frantically trying to open her car door, replied in a panicked tone, "It's horrible, just horrible. The new shampoo did it." Before Jerry could make sense of her cryptic words, a bus pulled up to the curb, bringing with it a group of Mary's friends. Mary's eyes widened in horror at the sight, her distress escalating. "Oh no, they can't see me like this. Jerry, get me inside, open the door," Mary pleaded urgently, her hands fumbling with the car door handle. Jerry's confusion only deepened. What? What are they doing here?" "Never mind, just open the door," Mary urged, her tone bordering on frantic. Responding to his mother's distress, Jerry moved to open the front door. However, before he could do so, the family's mischievous cat, Buffy, darted out with their excitable dog, Shag, in hot pursuit. The chaotic duo collided with Mary, sending her towel flying and revealing her bald head in all its glory. "Mother, your head! It's bald!" Jerry exclaimed in shock, his eyes widening in disbelief. Mary, in a state of sheer horror, scrambled to cover her head, but Shag, the playful troublemaker, caught hold of the towel and bolted away, leaving Mary exposed in front of her friends and family. As Mary's friends disembarked from the bus, they couldn't help but react to the unexpected spectacle unfolding before them. "Is that Madam Franklin?" one woman exclaimed, her voice tinged with disbelief. "She's bald! Oh, what a disgrace!" another woman remarked, her shock evident in her tone. Mary's distress peaked as she noticed her friends' reactions. With a cry of despair, she chased after Shag, her bare head now on full display. Her friends watched in astonishment as Mary's comedic pursuit ensued. Unable to locate her car keys in her haste, Mary abandoned the search and fled down the street, still in a state of distress and utter disbelief. Meanwhile, Jerry stood by the door, his expression a mix of horror and confusion as he watched the chaotic scene unfold before him. Rita, seizing the moment, emerged from the house with a mischievous grin on her face. She approached Jerry and pinned a badge on her shirt that read, "Don't mess with PMS."